One of the reasons why we often hear the advice to stop and smell the roses is that to a great extent we never even see the roses. Caught up in the mega multitask that is modern life, we're simply too busy to notice them. But this feeling of perceptual overload may not be entirely because of an overfull to-do list. It may be a function of how we manage attention, which in today's world is a real challenge. In urban and suburban environments, our attention is constantly grabbed by people, signs, images. Shopping is visual hunting, and chances are that our work involves sorting and digesting all kinds of visual information. When we kick back to relax, we often find ourselves in front of a screen, processing sometimes high-speed streams of images. Even surfing the internet involves picking our way through a maze of impressions. This visual activity takes place for the most part in what we are calling the cultural range of perception, that plane of interpretation where we infer meaning based on visual input. A stop sign is more than a red octagon with a word printed on it. It triggers a specific response in everyone. A glamorous billboard is more provocative than informative. Labeling things shabby or chic determines how we respond to them. It may be that, especially in urban life, the reality we inhabit is the one we are continually assembling on the culture screen. A simple way of saying this is that we tend to live in our heads rather than in actual material space. Of course, if we didn't deal effectively with our physical circumstances, we could not survive. But for much of the time, our essential activity involves a non-stop movie of meanings streaming on an internal plane generated largely through visual perception. We call this the culture screen, and we could say that our moment-by-moment reality is being inferred from its contents. This explains why we seldom smell the roses. They exist in the real world, where a rose and its scent don't stand for anything. They are something in and of themselves. On Valentine's Day, we might become aware of roses when they show up as symbols of romance on the culture screen, but otherwise they are mostly out of reach, out there beyond our attention. The real world is pushed even further away from our perception by an overlay of ideas, observations, and sometimes judgments that clutter and distort the culture screen. For example, if I encounter a homeless guy on the street, I'm not only likely to label him as such, but also to flip through a whole set of personalized responses like, "Oh, that's so sad," or "Hope he doesn't hassle me for money," and so on. What I probably won't see is the person himself, because I'm in a lattice work of thoughts laid over a screen of labels, all of which exist primarily in my mind. Awareness of the clutter of ideas through which we see the world is the first step in developing clarity of vision. This awareness is also the ongoing process through which we declutter the culture screen. Now, I don't know that it's possible or even advisable to go around without describing to ourselves what we are seeing, but it may just be a matter of shifting our focal plane from our internal commentary to the perception itself. Our observations and ideas are still there, only now they're in the background rather than the foreground. If our attention is predominantly on our personal movie playing on the culture screen, we are, in effect, cut off from seeing what is actually there. Isn't that a bit like flying in a fog with only our glowing instrument panel telling us where we are? It is possible to land safely using instruments only, but much more enjoyable to actually see where we are.